Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. Upcoming Kickstarters for next week. Last Kickstarter roundup was a long one from yesterday. Hope you had a chance to check it out. Hope you caught some things on there that were of interest to you, or maybe for your wallet's sake, hopefully maybe there were some passes. So I'm definitely splitting hairs in terms of what I'm going to be backing and not backing right now, because there's a lot of maybes, a lot of really looking good but not sure ultimately. So that's kind of it. Now, what else is upcoming as well from my video side of things? Early this upcoming week, in about 3-4 days, the 7th, 8th, 9th, right in there, I'm going to have my Witcher video out there. I'm working on the finishing touches right now. It's going to have everything all in one. I decided I wasn't going to split it up into like a review and a should you back and, a gameplay. It's just going to be all together. So if you want any more of those aspects, they're all going to be in the same video, so you don't have to jump around. You can get it right there. Then also on this list as well, Deliverance, I'm going to have a game review of that maybe in a week, week and a half during the campaign. And I've got a couple other things sort of in the background, like Let's Make a Bus Route, and Let's Make a Bus Route dice game, and Everdell, and, a whole bunch of stuff. But it's just what gets out there. I also have another top 10 list that I think is going to be really interesting for a lot of people. So if you're really interested in a really cool top 10 list that I think is a little bit thought-provoking in terms of what could be from a board game scene side of things in terms of a certain type of style that we're seeing a lot more of lately, stay tuned for that as well. So, as always, thank you for watching. Let's just do this. Let's get right into it, because there's a lot of stuff to go through, and there's always more stuff that always falls off in between the cracks. So check it out. If you miss something this week, it'll be on the roundup next week. First up, we'll just go with this, right? This is from the website themselves, Lonely Undead. Obviously, it's coming on June 7. So what is this game, besides being about zombies and the undead? This is a 1 to 4 player game where you are a newly unturned undead zombie trying to infect others. And you are going up head-to-head against other zombies in the same ilk, same position as you are, trying to bite the living. But the living are going to have certain attributes that you're going to have to overcome in terms of infecting them and being able to bite them successfully in the first place. And there's a lot of wannabe heroes in this town, so you're going to avoid them as well. There's going to be your phase of things, the player phase of things, and then the town phase is going to sort of retaliate. Like I just said, is that, the town's going to fight back. And it's the first one to infect a certain number of living. And they say there's also going to be a co-op as well as a solo mode. If you head over to the Board Game Geek page here, you can see the video section already has quite a number of videos that have been up for anywhere between like 1 day and 2 months. So you can get a little bit of a preview, well, a couple of previews, I guess, a solo playthrough, a couple more previews, an online preview. Yeah, so a little bit of everything. So, I mean, this is definitely, it's a interesting theme. And I mean that in the sense that what are you going to do with this theme that hasn't been done before? And how are you going to do it mechanically? There's dice rolling, there's stat overcoming, there's a lot of interaction. Now, obviously, it does make a twist on it because we're used to fighting off the zombies as opposed to fighting as the zombies. And there is some mitigation, there is some luck, there is some randomization, and there is some chaos. So if that appeals to you, you need to check this out. And a couple of the videos and the written reviews suggest that, don't judge a book by its cover. The gameplay seems to be more well fleshed out, pun, unintended dad pun, than the artwork may suggest, just from that side of things. So definitely check it out when it launches on the Undead on June 7th. Next up is Alien Exiles. This is a card management game where you get 2 actions per turn, where you're either playing a card or drawing a card, and you are trying to avoid letting the aliens take over. You are trying to either cover them up with government conspiracies or government tips, or you are trying to exile them off of the planet back to their home planet by discarding them. This is a 2 to 4 player game that you're going to be seeing on Kickstarter. There are, again, 3 videos already up, a preview, a how to play, and another preview. So you can get a little bit more information on what the cards are, how those cards are going to be interacting, how much take that there is in a game like this. Because, I mean, that would be the biggest concern that I would have on something like this style, is there's going to have to be a lot, especially if there's going to be some interaction. Here you can see a little bit of the example of what the cards are going to look like, so you can get a little bit of a sense of what they're going to be doing. There's a little bit of text at the bottom, and then there's just the name of the card at the top. So it's also launching on the 7th, so you'll have to check it out when it goes live. Alien Exiles. Next up on June 7 is Heroes of Barcadia. There is not actually a Board Game Geeks page, so this is the actual page, I believe, here. You can come and see where the Kickstarter pre-launch page is as well, but this is a combination of a party dungeon game with drinking. I'm going to leave it there. So what are you actually getting? You're getting some puns. You can get notified right here if you want to. And it says you're going to be battling monsters and bosses to collect power-ups, mystical abilities, and win an advantage in your race for the drink hoard. Loot cards, health bar cup, puntastic fantasy game for beverage connoisseurs. 20-sided dice, loot cards, power-up cards, trap cards, rule book. Coming on to Roll22. So there you go. That's everything that's out there. And if that interests you, great. If it doesn't, that's cool too. So there you go, June 7. Now, next up is Blooming Industry. And we have seen a flourish. Flower game name pun. Again, I'm 2 for 2 dad puns. And this is a 2 to 6 player game that is taking advantage of the tulip market, and you are trying to exploit while the going is good, and it is a bull market. Harvest, transport, sell those tulips while the going is hot and while the iron is smoldering. Now it looks like they're going to be having some grid movement here, worker placement, tile placement as well. So that's another interesting combination of those two themes and mechanisms that you don't see a ton of. They give a little bit more information on the phases on the Board Game Geek page as well as what you're going to be doing on an actual turn. The first phase is gather, where you're essentially getting these tiles. And now you either have your choice of one tile, which is allowing you to go to phase 2 and be able to do phase 2, or you can grab 2 tiles and keep them and skip to the third phase. You know, a little bit of give and take there. Second phase, you're laying this tile down, or you can reseed. You can place it over another one, but you cannot break one of these canals that you are seeing on here. Now, obviously, you also have to be color matching at least one side. So that is where the interesting hard part is going to come. Then the third phase is really where all of the meat and the action is going to be taking. You are going to be, first and foremost, putting a tulip down that matches the color, as you can see here with this blue cube. Placing a farmer on any area that doesn't have it as well. And then you're going to be harvesting and transporting these tulips, where you can be moving these boats up to 1 square per turn. It looks like there are 2 videos already on Board Game Geek, an overview/review, as well as a gameplay and rules. So, I mean, the gameplay and rules is only 9 minutes right now, and so if you want to get a good sense of this one, because I think this one could be a sort of a sleeper hit that's going to launch, and we've seen 2 or 3 of these flower ones. We've already seen 1 or 2 of these similarly styled tulip games already do pretty well on Kickstarter this year. Now, albeit, those were more heavily based card games, and this is definitely, like I said, tile placement and worker placement. So, you know, the divergence is definitely there, but the theme is still very similar. If nothing else, if this is any indication of what the final product is going to look like, it's going to be very beautiful to look at, aesthetically pleasing, and so it's definitely going to get some eyes just for being eye candy in the first place. That is Blooming Industry, launching on the 8th. Now, heard rumors of this one. I'm not sure if it's going to be true because there's not any information on either the Japanime Games website or on any of the individual pages, but if you're familiar with Japanime, they've had several of these Kickstarters over the past couple of years where they bundle 3 of these small Japanese import games in together in one Kickstarter, and supposedly there might be one launching on the 8th as well. The first one is called Latria. So this game is relatively simple. You start out getting dealt 10 cards, you then select draft and pass around until everyone has a new set of 10 cards, then you're going to be pulling a card off of the top of the deck, and you're going to be trying to then lay the highest card out from your hand. If you do, you get all the cards and get gems for victory points. It's officially a 2014 print, but as I said, Japanime Games has a habit of getting these games and importing them, making them more accessible for the English side of things. Second one up is Margot La Fée. This is a 1 to 4 player game. Margot La Fée, meaning Margot the Fairy, generally thought of as protectors, but can also be deadly if their wrath is warranted. You have escaped the clutches of an evil witch, and you are trying to help your kin escape as well. It is described as a push your luck asymmetric power type game. There's not a whole lot of other information that's available out there on Board Game Geek, but again, it's one of those games where the art is beautiful, but I mean, I backed one of the games on the first Domina Trilogy that Japanime did a couple years ago, and, you know, the art, again, was great, but the gameplay, I just didn't feel like stood up to repeated play. So hopefully, of these 3 games, we start to see a little bit more in that ilk. Now, the third one on this list is also Night Clan, which is weird because when you go to the Japanime website, they actually have Night Clan available for sale. So I'm not sure if this is actually going to be the case or what's going on here with this. But it is an area control game where you are dealt 13 cards similarly to all people. You have these 13 cards, you're going to be placing them 2 at a time on various locations, scoring because each of these cards is sort of love letter-esque in terms of their abilities and their numbers and how many points they're going to be getting you. Again, obviously, since I said there are 13 cards, you're only going to be playing 12 cards, and so if there is a tie a la love letter, where if you run out of the deck, you then compare cards that you're left with to determine who the winner is. So we'll see if the combination of these three launches on June 8th or not, because also, like I mentioned at the beginning, Japanime Games has nothing on their website, so to be determined. Next up on the 8th, and I've seen a lot of Facebook advertising for this one, is AracKhan Wars. This is another take, another spin on the 2 to 4 player, really head-to-head 1v1 asymmetrical dueling mage magic type games. You are picking your color and you are dueling against another on a battlefield. You are building a 23 card deck, which they say is going to have a point value as well, up to a maximum of 125 points. And again, if you watched my video earlier this week of my roundup of my collection, deck construction is a little bit of something that I personally have a lot of trouble with. So it's definitely hit or miss sometimes in these games. And as you can see here on this picture, is that you are moving these cards around on the grid, but they have to end up adjacent to another card at the end of the turn. So there are some movement specifications. So in that sense, it reminds me more of Summoner Wars. All of these cards are going to have values. They're going to have activations and abilities depending on when they flip over, what they're next to, what they can do. And each of them are going to have these values that you're going to be adding up at the end of the game after you've played all of your said cards in the rounds, and whoever has the highest score wins. So it definitely is a little bit different in that sense. It's definitely sort of an area control style card game rather than just a smash 'em, beat 'em up, magic, I blast you, you destroy me sort of thing. So if that interests you, check it out when it launches on June 8th. Next up is Edict Solar Convention, also launching on the 8th. This game is based on the premise that Earth is running out of raw materials, and the edict is that these 5 companies, corporations, are tasked with going out, racing into the solar system, and trying to get the most extraterrestrial resources that they can to the best of their ability. Scientific brilliance, political might, and exploration are all going to be heavy impact on your final score in terms of victory points. Colonizing new worlds, new explorations, new genius research, all of those are going to tie in. Tech tree, variable powers, resources in order to move around, those are the sort of mechanisms that you're going to see in this game. And again, when we go over to the Board Game Geek page here, you can see that there are already, several short little synopsis videos. Now, there's only one that really seems like it's more than, a couple minutes of lore, but it's there already. There's a few images that you can check out of what these tech trees are going to look like, the map of where you're going to be exploring in the solar system in the first place, and then you can see a little bit of how it's going to be labeled in terms of going to those areas and those various planets in the colonization sectors. Here's a little bit closer look up of what the technology is going to look like, how you're going to upgrade, how you're going to utilize these symbols. And so you can see that each of these companies has a little bit different starting abilities, iconography that you're going to need to know. So, if this seems of interest to you, in the line of something like Beyond the Sun, which is now all the rage, check this out when it launches on the 8th. Next up, launching on the 8th, I mentioned this one at the beginning, Deliverance. This is the Christianity-based angels fighting off demons that are trying to conquer the world in sort of this post-apocalyptic state. It is a different twist on the dungeon crawl with a unique AI system that is going to be highly replayable with several modes of difficulty. I have a copy in my house, Sans Miniatures, and I'm hopefully going to have a video sometime up in the middle of the campaign so you can get a little bit of my thoughts and my views on it as well. And Andrew Lowen, the designer, wants me to do it on the hard mode. So I'm going to get my butt kicked, prepared to hear tales of disastrous defeat. But as long as I'm having a good time doing it, we'll see kind of what pops up. I believe several of the other big major channels have copies as well. I saw Game Boy Geek with a copy a couple weeks ago already, and so expect some plethora of videos out there from that side of things too. Again, just like Fall of the Mountain King, expect me to be like one of the smaller people with a copy and some thoughts. But as always, hopefully it's just going to be a good time, so that's what matters. I'm going to be getting it to the table this weekend, and so we'll kind of go from there. There's going to be a campaign mode. There's going to be a skirmish mode. There is a Facebook group that is already highly active. It's got a lot of behind the scenes. I think they're starting to post some more videos and some more in-depth stuff already right now. So if you want to head over to the Board Game Geek page right here, I believe you can start to see, as you can see here, plenty of stuff. So there is a lot of stuff out there already, and you can get a good sense of what it's sort of going to look like even prior to the campaign launching, if it's of ilk to you. And I think it's worth a shot. So I'm excited to see what the AI, what the crawl system looks like, and how it compares to the other stuff out there. And so hopefully I can give you some of those thoughts as well after it launches on June 8th. Next up on June 8th is Overstocked. Just what the picture would make it seem like is that you are, in case you weren't around at that point, 90s toy craze, fad, in and out. You're trying to capitalize on that. You're trying to manipulate the market. You're trying to set collect. You're trying to buy at low, sell at high, rinse and repeat. That is the basis of this card game. 2 videos already on Board Game Geek. If you're interested in this card game and it plays anywhere from 2 to 6 players, and it's a light theme, easy to get to the table, quick couple rounds, check it out when it launches on the 8th. Next up, coming to Kickstarter, in case it wasn't crystal clear, is a game called Traps on June 8th as well. So, what are you doing in this game? I mean, you are going to be rolling and moving, trying to steal cash, trying to land on traps, or trying to just avoid traps in general. If you get a double, you get to roll again. Then you're drawing to see, what your cards you're going to get, and then playing whatever plans you have in motion, laying down other traps, playing actions, abilities, whatever you got up your sleeve. This is the own website of Traps the board game, and they even have the rule book here as well. Now here with the rule book, they talk about the fact that there are going to be 4 different types of cards that you're going to be utilizing in those various actions that I just mentioned. One are the trap cards that are going to take your opponents, and they're going to be laying those down along the spaces as they're going to be rolling and moving. The next is the money pit. Basically, if they land on it, they have to pay you. If you land on it, you get money. As they say in the game, win-win. The action cards are going to be just directly, affecting either you, them, or someone else. And then you have also these treasure cards that are just more money. The asymmetric abilities that I just mentioned, if you go bankrupt, the special spaces that are already on the board, everything under the sun. And you're going to be the first one to escape. So the other interesting aspect of this is there are 4 human characters and 4 animal characters, and each of them is going to be randomly assigned as well per game. So you're going to have a unique combination of animal and human each time you play, so the strength and the strategy might be different as well from that standpoint. So there you go, launching on June 8th. As they say on the Board Game Geek page, trust no one, and they say trap everyone. I would say trap everything. So there you go, Traps. Now next up from Pawn Joker Games, I'm not sure if this is like a reprint because the original listing is from 2016 and there's a couple just minor things on Board Game Geek about it. It is a 2 to 5 player push your luck style card game. Roll dice, get virtues, impress the daimyo, win. Sort of reminds me of that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, sort of 1, 2, 3 dentist steps. Anyway, now they say a lot of the virtues that you're going to be doing, you're either going to have the opportunity to roll again and try and get daimyo abilities, which are going to affect later abilities, powers, interactions, but also the virtues are going to be interactive as well. So you're going to have a little bit of push your luck, not only from that side with the other players, but also the game itself. This is launching on June 10. Here you can see a little bit of some of the dice rolling and the symbols in terms of the actions. And here's a little bit closer look of it, as well as one of the virtues that you can get as well. So if that interests you, check it out when it launches on the 10th. So also launching on June 11 now. Boom, 11. That's an easy way to remember it. Now this is a remake of a game called Club Stories, where you are acting as the manager, the owner, the operator of a football club. Now, not the American football club. I am going with the rest of the world on this one and calling it Futbol, because that is what soccer really should be called. Anyway, that's a whole nother side tangent. Don't get me in trouble by all US backers, but let's be honest. Let's go with the world here. I'm not going to argue the metric versus the imperial. That's a whole nother conversation as well. But football. You are acting as the manager and you are taking the team through a season. And so that is what the premise of this game is. Now, does that sound interesting? No, you need to be aware. It's an economic strategy game because you are going to be doing a lot of market manipulation in terms of salaries, in terms of contracts, in terms of playtime, in terms of trading with other clubs. That is the aspect of things. So this is not going to be like, like an actual soccer dexterity, that side of things. You need to be aware of that. It is a completely different realm of things. A 1 to 4 player game from Portal Games that plays up to 2 hours in length. So completely different from what you may have thought of initially when I said what it was and what the theme was. Now, it says that there are going to be 6 different scenarios that you're going to be presented and pitched. Haha, pun there again, number 3. And you're going to be having to navigating through as well as having goals in each of those unique scenarios. Are you managing in times of crisis? Are you trying to rejuvenate an old club that is past its prime? What are you trying to do and how are you trying to navigate it and how successful can you be ultimately in the one thing that matters in terms of wins and, money? So that is a synopsis of what Portal Games is putting out. And if you want to check out 11, it's on 11. June 11th, that is. But it's worth a shot because I have no idea what to expect. So I'm going to be checking it out as well when it launches. Roundup for this week done. Check it out from yesterday. Upcoming for next week done. Check it out. There's a couple interesting games in there in case you didn't see my little comments below. 11 as well as Deliverance. Those are my picks of the week. Those are the ones that I'm really having the most eyes on of all of these. So if those are of interest to you, I'm going to be checking them out both the days they launch. As well, maybe do another Monday morning quarterback coming up this Monday, and then followed either a day or 2 later. That's going to be when The Witcher is coming out, and then maybe I'll try and have another review out, like I mentioned, of one of those other various games that have been lurking around the background or on the floor here next to me in terms of my video room, and we'll kind of just see what else comes up. So, as always, let me know what you're interested in. Let me know what you were backing from this last week. Let me know if there's something else in the upcoming month of June, because there's definitely a couple big ones coming up. So we'll kind of see where things fall, and I'll have a little bit more of everything out there for you. If there's anything else specific you like, don't like, you want to see more of, you want to see less of, you just let me know in the comment section. I love the comments. I love the clicks. I just thank you guys for willing to put up with me, and hopefully we are inching closer to 3,000. So anything you can do to get me there a little bit faster is always appreciated. But as always, thank you for your patience, thank you for your time, and stay classy. Have a great weekend, play some games or not, depending on what's going on in your life too. So thanks. See you around.